This lesson covers the advanced DNS records. And we've already seen a few record types previously, for example the host record or a record. This is a mapping of a host name to an IP address. For example, here I have a static host record called AutoDiscover that simply maps the name AutoDiscover to IP address 192.168.1.44. And because this is part of a DNS zone, its fully qualified domain name would be autodiscover.saviltech.net. This is a statically created record. I manually created this, so it doesn't have a timestamp. But I can look at the properties, and I can just see here that fully qualified domain name, a time to live. So the time to live basically tells other DNS servers and clients, if you've already done a query for this record and it's within the time to live, in this case an hour, you don't need to check again. So if you check again within 1 hour, just use the record you have in your cache already. If it's outside of the time to live, you need to check again with the DNS server. But there's also different types of records that have been dynamically created. So Active Directory Integrated DNS supports dynamic update. This allows clients to register their own DNS entries. You can see it here. For example, if I look at my server records, I can see they've all registered their own IP addresses. So for example, my 2008 R2 server, if I look at the properties, it actually has a timestamp. So this is the time it last updated this record. And it only has a time to live of 20 minutes. So again, if someone cached this after 20 minutes, it would have to go and recheck with the DNS server. Where this is important is imagine you do have some kind of service that maybe frequently changes IP address. Well, you would want a low time to live value on that record so that people who have already searched for it in the past wouldn't keep using the old IP address. So you'd want a low time to live. If you're about to migrate a service to a new IP address, maybe a week before that migration, you might reduce its time to live from, say, a day to 15 minutes to start flushing out those cached values ready for when you make your change. But this timestamp is important for something we're going to talk about in a future lesson around scavenging old records, because obviously servers and desktops are just registering their own records. If that server or desktop goes away, it still has a record there. But that's the host type. Then we have alias or CNAME records. We very commonly see www, and there isn't a server called www, but instead what you do is you point this to another server, maybe a network load balance name. So in my case, www points to my SharePoint server. And again, it's time to live of 1 hour. And I can see this. If I do an NS lookup, www.saviltech.net, I can see actually it's pointing to this server. Now what I can actually do, I can just do NS lookup www. And by default, my client considers I'm lazy and adds my primary DNS suffix to it when it does that lookup. If I look at my adapter settings, and I look under IP, as part of my advanced configuration, I can also append other DNS suffixes. So if I was a large organization, maybe I had northamerica.saviltech.net, saviltech.co.uk, etc., and I wanted to automatically search those suffixes when I type in a single level name, such as www, I could add those in here. And I want you to remember that because there's another feature I'm going to talk about later on to actually make this a lot easier. So we have alias records, another name for a host record, or actually other types of record. There are more complicated ones. We see I have name server records, so these are the name servers within this zone. There's a start of authority record. So this identifies the primary name servers for this zone and some other types of information. So for example, if I open this up, I can see the refresh, retry intervals, minimum time to live of the records, time to live of this record. And this is actually stored as a property of the zone. So as I've selected the primary DNS server for this zone, and I can also select a responsible person, an RP record. Which are the other types of record I can actually have? You've seen some of these again when we talked about Active Directory. If I look at TCP, we see service location records, new types of resource record. And these are giving information about a type of service. For example, LDAP. LDAP is the Lightweight Directory Access Protocol. It's a means of interacting with the Active Directory. And the service record actually helps the clients understand how to interact with that service. it's telling them, well, you need to actually talk on port 389, and this server is offering an instance of the LDAP service. Additionally, you can give different weights and priorities. So I could say some servers are a higher priority than other servers. Some servers carry a greater weight, so they should get a greater number of the requests sent to them. If I had a weight of 200, I'd get twice as many sent to me than a weight of 100. So it's actually a way of balancing out records being sent to the server. Notice this has a very small time to live, only 10 minutes. So this actually would get updated very, very frequently by the clients. They're always going to go and check with DNS rather than using a cached value. But there are other types of record. If I do a sort by type, I have text records. So text record is literally just a string. So this is a special record that actually helps Windows 8 remote desktop clients automatically find the RD web feed where they can get a list of all their published applications. There's also records such as an MX record, a mail exchanger. So this helps mail systems find the mail server responsible for a certain domain. So for example, if I went to NSLookup, set my query to be an MX record. So those are the email servers that handle saviltech.com. So if another mail system was trying to send an email to john@saviltech.com, they would look for the MX record for saviltech.com, and that's where they would send the email to. There are also records related to IPv6. So for example, I have a direct access record, which is just a host record, but instead of an A, it's an AAAA. And this says a host name to an IPv6 IP address. We have reverse types of records. We have pointer records. So this points an IP address to a fully qualified domain name. So as you can see, a number of key types of record. And there are other ones. You can see all the different types available here, so you might want to have a look through, but the most common ones are available as part of the context menu. You're typically going to create host records, aliases, you're going to create a mail exchange for your zone once, and they're going to be the key things you're ever going to use. This completes the lesson on DNS record types.